Okay, let's dive into some more advanced DevTools features. You've probably heard a lot of phrases like responsive design, mobile first responsive design, frameworks for responsive design like Bootstrap, Material UI. So what are these things and how do we use DevTools specifically to help us do the responsive design? So just a quick intro of what responsive design is. You should know from the previous video already how to pull up your DevTools, hit F12, and what is responsive design. So when we talk about responsive design, we start with thinking about smaller devices other than just a desktop, and the responsive design means that it's the same web page, the same layout, but it will look and behave differently on a smaller device than it does on a large device. And you can simulate that experience by using this Chrome Tools feature. So Control-Shift-M toggles this button. Yeah, of course you can click it, but remember your keyboard shortcuts, you want to practice that. Toggles in and out, so I'm just doing Control-Shift-M on the keyboard. That puts me into device mode. It gives me the device toolbar. And this is pretty cool what I can do. Let's see what it looks like. So, okay, yeah, maybe you don't have an iPhone SE, or maybe you do, but you want to look at that because somebody could, right? If somebody's coming to your site, you want to see what it would look like on an iPhone SE. iPad mini, and then if you haven't played around with this tool before, you have an option to rotate it. So if you want to see what the iPad looks like, for example. The other option here is responsive. A lot of people will just kind of stay in responsive because it gives you a lot more flexibility to go through all these pretty quickly. You also get a little sidebar that you can drag, kind of scale up to see what happens as you're scaling up and down. You won't get that when you use one of these devices. If I choose, say, iPad Air, I don't get that little sidebar thing. So that's why if you find that's missing and you're used to it, you need to switch back to responsive mode here like this. And then let's just kind of go through these. They give you some sample smaller size. That's obviously mobile. S stands for small, and then mobile medium, mobile large, tablet, laptop. That's a regular laptop, I guess, and this is laptop large. And then there's one more that's 4K. So even if you don't have a 4K monitor, you can still kind of simulate what a really large monitor would look like, how the layout of your page is going to look. All right, let's get back to something normal here. And I want to point out that this little hamburger menu, you'll notice, of course, it makes a lot of sense here on mobile to have a hamburger menu. And as I scroll up and up, not scroll up, as I resize a little bit higher and higher and higher, eventually this pops right there. It pops to all these other menu items that you can now click instead of having to click the hamburger menu. And then from there up on any desktop size, it's going to just show this full menu. And it changes a little bit as it scales up. So what I'm going to do as, someone who uses DevTools all the time is there's a feature that's not enabled by default called media queries. So I'll click Show Media Queries, and that's going to show me where those different breakpoints are, where those things are popping. Let's go back to the hamburger menu. That was right about here. You'll see that hamburger menu is there, and then it pops. And these lines up above, those are the different breakpoints. I'm also using the term pop there. That's not a technical term. I guess the technical term is breakpoint. But if I go to just under this breakpoint, which you can see has a 0.02 under, it's 0.02 pixels under the one above it. So 768 is the breakpoint. That's the actual breakpoint. But Chrome gives me this media query thing I can click that brings me just under the breakpoint, so I can kind of see the largest screen resolution you can go to be just under the breakpoint. You can do that pretty easily without having to take this little bar here and drag and like get it right at the exact spot. You can just click in there. And the highlighted section in these media queries is showing me all of the CSS that's currently activated at this breakpoint. So there's all of this, which is, you see when I hover over it, it gives me the media query, the under the covers media query that's making this happen. It's the media query min width at least 576. So anything over 576 pixels is kind of activating here. This one, the next one up, which is not activated because it's kind of hollow, says min width 768. Well, I'm just under that. I'm at 767, so you can see that's why it's not highlighted there. I can click it and go up to that level, but I'm just going to stay here for a little bit. And then same thing with the blue. These are max widths. There's another media query that'll show. Sometimes I think it's green that it'll show, and it's the one where it has a media query that's a range. So it's like min and max. Those will show up as a different one. We try to avoid those. Actually, we don't. Bootstrap 4, which I think is what's used here, and probably Bootstrap 5, those avoid the green ones, the ones that have the range by default, by doing something called mobile first responsive design. So that's a philosophy on how to design doing responsive, where you start by targeting the smaller intersection, the smallest width first, mobile device, and then you get that layout looking good, kind of design it, and then you work up from there. So you want to go up a breakpoint and sort of work your way up, and then look for problems. So you can see it's not really a problem, but let me just show you on the very smallest breakpoint. I have this shadow box thingy that's coming out almost to the edge, right? And if I go up just a hair to the next breakpoint, then you'll see how that kind of popped a little bit. And I'll just go back and forth. We can just kind of see the difference. The pixel difference is only 0.02 here in the width of the screen resolution, but it's applying two different sets of CSS because of the media queries. And if for some reason I wanted to adjust that, maybe I wanted to draw this, I don't really care, it looks okay either way, but maybe I wanted to draw that out a little bit more to make it match what the smaller one was, then I would leave this smaller breakpoint the way that it is. I go up, I work my way up to the next breakpoint here. I'd make my adjustment in Bootstrap in a mobile first way. I make that adjustment at this breakpoint for this breakpoint and all the other ones up. And then I just keep working. And hopefully when you make that change, everything up looks fine. But as you work your way up these media queries, then if you see something else that you don't like, you can adjust it there for that breakpoint and all the breakpoints up. And then when you get to the very top, you get to the largest width, that 4K width we talked about earlier, which I can click here to get all the way out to that 4K width. Then hopefully everything looks good, and you will not have to go back down and revisit any or fix anything on the smaller breakpoints because of the way that Bootstrap is designed to do this mobile first approach. The various class names that you use along the way target always from that breakpoint that you're on to the larger ones. So that's why it's called mobile first. And these are media queries. So hopefully that's a good introduction to media queries, and practice that. Play around with Bootstrap, practice these media queries.